No more wishing wells, no more crank machines. No more stuffing them into rolls and turning them in for cash. Because after 223 years, the penny is dead. But while it might be sad to think about times changing, when you realize why pennies are going away, you'll wish this had happened a long time ago. The biggest reason pennies are going away can be summed up with one word: waste. And I promise you aren't ready for these numbers. For starters, it costs 3.7 cents just to make 1 penny. This is known as negative seigniorage, when the cost of making currency is higher than the face value. But this is where it gets crazy. The United States makes 3.2 billion pennies every year, which, if you laid them end to end, could nearly wrap around the entire planet. So in total, the US spends about $120 million to make $32 million worth of pennies. But it gets worse. Studies show that nearly $68 million worth of coins are thrown away in the trash each year. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of this. They get lost in the couch, under the car seats, and for most of us, a dirty little crusty penny is not worth the effort to bend down and pick it up or clean it off. On top of that, there's already $14 billion worth of loose change that's stuck in jars, cup holders, and car seats instead of actually being used. To make things worse for the penny, inflation has even made the penny spending power nearly zilch. It's arguably worth less than 1 cent in real terms these days. So I guess we don't really need new pennies to begin with if we're already throwing them out. However, there are some arguments that could be made to keeping the penny. One reason comes from what's called the rounding tax. If the penny is eliminated, cash transactions could be rounded to the nearest nickel. So instead of $1.99, your item becomes $2, or $1.91 might become $1.95. It's not a big amount for one transaction, but it could add up over time. This rounding tax is feared to disproportionately affect low-income consumers, who are more likely to pay with cash and make smaller purchases. Removing pennies could also have a big effect on charities that use penny drives as part of their fundraising effort. But perhaps the biggest argument for keeping the penny is, if we get rid of it, our reliance on nickels will increase, and nickels might be even more problematic than pennies. Nickels are actually the most expensive, costing around 14 cents to produce each one, so they'll likely be the next to go. I'll talk about dimes and quarters in a bit, but most countries that got rid of their pennies ended up axing the next smallest coin too. I mean, why should we keep losing money by making money? That doesn't make sense. Okay, sorry. I'll stop. But it's not just a financial cost. There's also a pretty big environmental one too. Cranking out billions of pennies eats up over 21,000 tons of zinc and 500 plus tons of copper every year. Mining and processing all of that metal isn't exactly eco-friendly. It produces thousands of tons of carbon emissions and other pollutants. But even though the penny will stop getting made, they are still legal tender. So you can still pay for things using pennies if you were one of the few who still use them. However, if you have a collection buried away somewhere in your house, you might want to check, because your pennies could be worth a lot of money in the future. Since we're finally stopping penny production, experts believe most of them will be out of circulation by 2050. So pennies could become kind of rare, and the right one could be worth millions. Now, the vast majority of pennies are only worth their face value of 1 cent. So you could have 1,000 pennies and big whoop-de-doo, you've got 10 bucks. But before you dump that jar of coins, there are certain collector pennies that fetch a fortune. For example, a 1958 Lincoln cent with a printing error, a double die design, sold at auction for over $1.1 million. You heard that right. 1 penny went for $1 million. Another famous rarity, a 1943 penny mistakenly made of bronze, also sold for around $1 million. There are tons of special coins that could be worth something in the future, and we'll leave a link in the description to help you know which ones. These gems are literally the lottery tickets of loose change. Of course, the odds of finding one of those in your pocket are microscopic, but hey, it never hurts to check. If you do find generational wealth because of this video, please let us know. But in the meantime, if you learned something new so far, give this a like and subscribe to the channel. I think that's a fair trade. The penny may be on its way out, but what does that mean for the future of cash? Cash in general is starting to feel a bit, well, old school. In 2024, only around 16% of all transactions in the US were made with cash, and it's been a decline for years. Most transactions are happening with credit cards, debit cards, or digital payments like Tap to Pay. Think about it. When was the last time you needed exact change for anything? Even vending machines take cards or phones now. Many businesses, especially post-pandemic, prefer tap-and-go payments, and some don't even accept cash at all. This trend means fewer people are bothered by losing the penny, because fewer people are using any coins or paper money day to day. If pennies go bye-bye and we start rounding prices to the nearest 5 cents, the poor nickel will take all the pressure. On the flip side, dimes and quarters are safe for now. It costs about 6 cents to make a dime and 15 cents to make a quarter. So those actually turn a profit for the mint. As long as coins pay for themselves, Uncle Sam is happy to keep minting them. Now the real question is, could we ever become a cashless society? If this did happen, governments could save on printing and minting costs, and it would be harder to evade taxes or engage in illicit trade when every transaction leaves a digital footprint. Businesses often prefer digital payments too, but cash does have some positives. It's always reliable in case there's a power outage, and you don't have to leave a paper trail with every transaction you make. However, the chances of becoming completely cashless likely won't happen in our lifetime. But who knows? That's just my 2 cents. Okay, that was the last pun. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.